Hello and welcome back to the STD podcast with me, this guy, and him, that guy.
Hi,
We're back.
and with him and me. Hello, welcome to the strangely tall koalas. No, that's okay.
That's okay.
But thanks for coming. Is my microphone too high? Are the sound levels good?
You sound good. Yeah, you sound good.
It's resting on a box of, look, this is Constantine Valdor in there.
Oh, nice.
I really need to get him done.
But for now, he can hold your audio equipment high.
Yes, professional.
Yeah.
Professional.
Mine, I've got a stand for mine. I've gone all pro. Got a little.
I thought about
thing.
getting this because this comes off of the thing, and then you could get it on a thing, and then I could pull the stat and then down and then up. When I
you could be one of those
like,
cool guys, and they bring it down in front of them, and they're like.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. And I said, Kat, have a look online and find out how much one of the. Do you know how much they cost? They cost more than miniatures. And miniatures,
That's
you need
silly.
a kidney. You need to sell a kidney. So we're not doing that. Instead,
Okay.
Constantine Valdor is holding up this whole thing. And seeing as he's only that big, and the mic he's holding up something 5 times his height. He's a
very
big lad.
fitting. Yeah,
Chonky
very
boy.
fitting for the man. How have you been, by the way? How have you been?
I've been all right. However, where the hell have you been? This is, last week we didn't do it. The week before you didn't do it. You had some kind of anniversary or Cub Scout Silver membership or something. I don't know what it was, but you've been blurring me off. And much like I like to be blown off by you, I have missed your shaggy old face.
Yeah, it's been, I did this thing where I got married.
Right.
And apparently you have to celebrate that. Every single year you have to remind yourself that you did that. Otherwise you get in loads of trouble. So that was one of the things. And we just, it's all come together, and here we are on what day? I don't even know what day it is today. This day.
Do you have to be reminded of your wedding anniversary, or do you actually remember what day it is?
I, of course, remember what day it is.
Nice. Does she also remember the day you first went out for a first date, or the day you had your first coffee together, or the day? Does she remember all that stuff as well?
There are several dates which I actually don't remember all of these.
Yes.
Where she tries to bring it into being some kind of event, and I'm like, is it though? I think the wedding one was the big one. It's like, but then this happened on the 11th of this month, and also on the 20th of this month. And I was like, this.
It's not important, is it? The date you had your first coffee together. I mean, how important is that?
No, it's just coffee, mate. That's all it is.
It's just coffee, mate.
Yeah.
And you're old like me, so you remember before coffee spread across the land like a cancer.
Yeah.
Back in the day, like when you wanted a special time with the ladies, it would be down the Odeon cinema with a packet of peanuts, and
it would be at the Odeon cinema. You're right. And if you were smart, then you'd choose something that was a bit scary.
Why?
Because then they would get scared and they'd grab onto you.
Damn.
Did you not know that at the time?
I'm 50 and I'm learning new things.
Yeah, that would have really helped. Something a little bit spooky. You can't go too far where they're repulsed, but it's got to have enough scaredness that they lean onto you and like, oh gosh, help me.
But we've established in previous STDs that your movie taste is absolutely atrocious.
No, we haven't established that. What we figured out was that I have an impeccable, refined movie taste, and yours is more like run-of-the-mill. You don't like the really cool stuff. What? Actually, you know what we did discover, Winters? We discovered that there's a lot of crossover.
Yes.
In our tastes, except where the little fingers are, they ram into each other. They don't cross over. And where the thumbs are, they ram into each other. So in the middle, we've got all those lovely films that we like together, and then on the extremes, that's where we've got our problems.
It's like a Venn diagram. Is that the word for it?
Yeah, but yeah. But the circles are quite close, and they've got little bits on the outside that don't touch each other.
Well, no, because we also discovered, because there's an and, like you can, like eating kiwi. Kiwi is sour, but it's also sweet. Like the first hit of the kiwi. Here's the thing for you. Have you ever done this? Go on YouTube after this and Google babies eating kiwis. It's hilarious. I don't normally laugh at babies except when they drop ice cream all over themselves or stuff like that. But my wife showed it to me the other day, and watching them go, and then, ooh, that's really nice. And then doing it again and doing it again. See, because you can have a thing and another thing. So everything you said was true. and there is empirical evidence to prove that your taste in movies is shit.
Okay. I'm not not even gonna. No, I'm not falling for this one. We're not going back to the film that we're not going to name, because that'll be. We can't discuss this every single time. But you are wrong about that film, and probably wrong about some other films as well.
Listen. I'll give you some time for this wound to become a scar. Then I'll start poking it again when it's not so sore. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I do love that film that we're talking about. Quick thing about kiwis. When you eat kiwis, do you sometimes get like an itchy back of the throat?
I'm not a big fruit guy. It hasn't got any chocolate on it.
Oh, okay. So you just don't eat kiwis at all?
I can't remember the last kiwi I had. And I think I prefer to eat an Australian, actually, because they've travelled less distance than the kiwis, right?
If anyone gets a tickle in the back of the throat, please tell me so that I'm not alone. But I think it must be common. Like, it actually makes my throat itch.
Right. Is it
weird.
Just the pubic hairs from eating a kiwi?
They do do have strange pubes on the outside.
There's Americans out there going, what? Oh dear. Bonus points if you're American and understand that reference. So welcome to this latest episode of the STD with myself, Winters SEO, and my glorious compadre, Warsmith Chris. Are you still Warsmith Chris, or have you changed it again?
Why not?
Because you're doing Eldar and other things. You turned loyalist.
Yeah, it's just Warsmith Chris. What's the point in trying to be anything else, you know? Warsmith Chris. That's my name. Well,
the Chaos Space Marines are looking quite chonky now. I do like them in 10th edition. Have you given them a tickle?
No, I need to. So I was actually I've actually planned a game of 10th almost with Sultan. I'm going to bring Necrons.
Okay.
He's going to bring his fancy new blue Space Marines. I think he's shown them to everybody. I can't remember.
Yes.
But he's going to bring those, and I'm going to get back into this 10th edition thing and get ready. So that'll be fun.
So you're coming to Swindon and playing 40k with Sultan. Am I the wingman? Am I yesterday's child? What's going on?
I was thinking of making him drive to me, actually.
Oh, okay.
So
he has got a nice setup. Did I tell you about? Did I tell you the story of his setup?
The one that you went in and destroyed all his fun.
Let me tell you a story.
Tell me the story.
So a couple of months ago, Sultan moved house. Lovely new house, and up on the top floors, 3 stories tall, and he set up a game room. And I have to say, his game room is a better game room than my room. It's really cool because my game room has just got games in there, but he has a couch, he has a coffee maker, back to coffee again. He's got his PC, his Xbox. He's got all the things in there, and stuff on the walls. Plants, even. Who has plants? We have plastic plants because you don't even need to water them. And it was a lovely table and a lovely man cave, and he invited me over to play him. So I thought, let's go. And I think I made him cry. It was over quite quickly. That was at the tail end of 9th edition, though. Yeah. He's made me cry since.
Yeah. There's a really good question in here about Sultan later on. We'll get to it when we get to it, but I'm really looking forward to reaching that one. We'll see how it goes.
Well, talking about questions, do you want to tell everyone the point of this show?
Oh yeah, we haven't done that bit. So
the intro.
So we call it the STD, but this is really the STC. It's a bit rude that we keep calling it the STD, but that's just what it's called now. And there was a chap or someone on the last episode that gave us a whole list of names that it could be. I believe a whole load of them. So there you go. Thank me later. You can use those. So
I like strange, tasty cats.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So this is the podcast. It's a free-forming thing. But the idea of it is that we talk about lore. We talk about things that are going on in 40k, and most importantly, we just go through a load of lore questions and other kinds of questions, hobby-related questions mostly. There's a couple that aren't today, but hobby-related questions, and they come from you people, and you people specifically are the people that are in the Discord. And how did they get on the Discord, Winters?
Well, to become a Winters SEO Discord member, join the Winters SEO Discord, then you need to become at least a Tier 2 channel member. But I would recommend becoming a Tier 3 channel member for £1 more, because that also gives you access to all the extra videos that I put up. There's an extra battle report every single Wednesday, which the Discord have called Winters Wednesdays, which I quite like.
Yeah. And you can't even get a coffee for £1, going back to the coffees again now. So why not get a whole new battle report on a Wednesday? That sounds like a bargain to me.
Yeah, and join in with the Discord. They're very gentle. They're nice people.
We've got a little room in there called the STC Law and Questions, and there's another little room that goes with that where you can talk about the stuff that we were talking about in the questions chat. But basically, just before we film an episode, I go in there and I say, hey everyone, we're going to record an episode tomorrow. Why don't you ask your questions? And then I go through and I pick out nearly all of them, and then we talk about them on here. So if you want to have a point discussed that you've been thinking about, you want to know some. I mean, we've done a little bit of tactics here and there. We've done a little bit of guidance. We also talk about deep lore. I mean, Winters has got a Bible with like all of the 40k stuff in it.
I have,
and he's uploaded that into his brain.
Yes,
via that green tube that you see hanging down next to him.
Yep,
that goes straight into his brain. He's put all that info in there, and usually he can answer anything. I make it up and try and make it look like I know what I'm talking about. But that can also help as well, you know. So there you go. That's how you join in with the STC. Go and sign up, become a channel member, go to the Discord, do your questions, and then we will read them out and do them. We'll do the questions.
We'll do it. And thank you to everyone who posted a question and helped make this show happen, because we couldn't make it happen without you. Well, we could when the people didn't ask the questions at the start. But we couldn't make the current format of the show happen without you. The old format of the show was pretty good as well. So if you want to go back and listen to us ramble all the way through the history of everything since the birth of the universe, and we got up to the Unification Wars, I think. And
we finished Unification Wars.
Yeah,
we were at the very start. So, you know, it doesn't mean we're not going to carry on with that at some point in the future, but right now, I'm having a load of fun doing the questions, doing the lore questions, keeps it mixed up, and we got some great engagement with people. It's great fun. Chatting with.
I love the fact that you go in there and ask the questions and pin them all. I mean, you don't look like an organised person, but really, you're not an organised person. No, but on this, you're partially organised, so that's good.
On this, I did find out how to pin things.
Yes,
and sometimes I can find where I've pinned those questions and read them out.
Sometimes,
yeah. And we're going to do that today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Is there any other big news in Warhammer? Have I missed anything?
Is there any other big news in Warhammer? Well, 10th edition. Have you played 10th edition yet?
So, no.
Oh.
So my first game of 10th edition is going to be with Sultan soon. That isn't because I've not wanted to play or anything like that, or anything silly like that. I have another side thing that I do called Stronghold Wargaming, and it's all historical war games, and I've been getting some historical stuff ready for some events we've been doing. And you know, there's just not enough time in the day to do every army at once. So I've been doing a bit of that, but now I'm ready to go and play some 40k, and I'm sure we'll arrange something. I'll come and play with you, and we'll do some things, and it'll be great fun.
And then there's the side hustle that pays for all of these things, Rent Boy. Yes. And
that has slipped a bit lately because I haven't been doing my glute exercises. Which
you need to. Don't skip leg day.
Don't skip leg day. And people have commented. They've been like, "Your glutes aren't what they used to be, mate." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm trying to fit it all in. I've been painting a lot." And
dude, when you sat down and put on the camera today, the first thing I thought was glutes. I looked at you and thought glutes.
Well, I've just done a glute session.
Have you?
So I'm getting back on the wagon. Yeah, I'm getting back into it. So
back on the glutes. You've got to exercise those glutes. Take them for walks. Feed them kale.
Yeah, it's so much harder than it looks. Kale and spinach mainly.
Spinach was around when we were younger, but kale popped up in the noughties, I think. They invented it in a lab somewhere as the most disgusting food ever, and people eat that shit.
Kale definitely never existed, and I'd never heard of it before.
No.
I thought it was some kind of fish kind of thing at first, when I first heard the term kale being thrown around. It turns out, it's just a very strongly flavoured, briny leaf, and it's awful.
Is that what it is?
It's a leaf. It's like it looks like cabbage. It looks like a dark cabbage.
I thought kale was like a slab of fake stuff like tofu.
No, tofu is bean curd. Tofu is the cheese of beans, right?
What?
It's the cheese of beans.
That doesn't make any sense.
So they make it the same way they make cheese.
What, they milk a cow and they get beans out of a cow? What are you talking about, man?
They milk a bean.
Right.
And all the bean milk's there, and they skim off all the protein meat off the top and make blocks of that white stuff.
What sort of bean then makes the best tofu to milk?
Only one of them, soya beans.
You got to milk the soya beans.
Yeah, and then they ferment the soya juice, and it becomes soy sauce. Probably.
What about baked beans or the kidney beans or the runner beans? You can't milk them.
Doesn't make good cheese. Just doesn't make good cheese.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want good cheese, you've got to go to the soybean, and you can make tofu, which doesn't taste of anything.
See, I'm suddenly reminded, when you're talking about milking stuff, I'm suddenly reminded of that thing with Ben Stiller and Thingy Bob, Robert De Niro in Meet the Fockers, where he says, I have nipples, can you milk me? Why my brain went there, I don't know. But, yeah.
It was a good question, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
So my homework task is to look at bean milking. Your homework task is to look at babies eating kiwis.
Kiwis, yeah.
Report back.
Okay. Should we crack on with the questions?
I think we should.
It might get a little weird if we don't.
Yeah, I know.
Because I was thinking about the idea of oat milk.
Right.
The whole thing about milking oats.
That's right.
It must take a long time because oats are quite small. And how do they milk them? Do they have to get loads and loads of people to milk them? Yeah. Let's not go into it.
There must be professional oat milkers out there. That's like a job that you sign up for. Yeah. Milk oats.
I'm really good at milking. You have to have tiny fingers to do it. Little spindly needle fingers. Maybe
children do it in Bolivia or something. I don't know. Like they have sweatshops and something. They're just milking all the oats and things.
Yeah. We should probably do a protest about that or something.
We probably should.
I just remembered.
What?
I think the last time the STC came out, was that when 10th had just come out?
I think it had just come out. I think it was just around that time, yes. I think it's been a month. It's been a month, Chris. I've missed you. So
just before we do hit the questions, a month in, how are we feeling about 10th?
I'm liking it. I know it's a bit imbalanced, and I know it's a bit crazy and all over the place, but I'm invigorated for 40k right now. Okay. I'm enjoying playing the game. I'm enjoying finding out what all the new combos are, running different armies, running different factions, and against different factions. The Leviathan Missing deck is rather balanced and is quite good. There is, because of the imbalance, there's a difference. There's always been a difference between the weaker lists and stronger lists, but the difference between the weaker lists and the stronger lists now is the difference between Snowdon and Mount Everest. So that's a thing. But yeah, 10th edition's been quite fun.
Where would you put it? We're talking about Index 8th.
Right.
Main 8th, 9th edition, 10th. Where's the scale? There?
Index 8th is the Maldives of the Warhammer 40k. Right. Index 8th was probably the best health, best game Warhammer 40k has been, in my humble opinion. Mm-hmm. Second best is probably those 18 months when all the codexes came out before they started monkeying around with it too much.
Yeah,
it's not the Maldives, but it is Kerala. It is Thailand. It is Bali. It's good. It's warm. It's pleasant, and you can get very, very drunk playing it. You can also smash out a couple of games in an evening as well. It's quite quick.
Okay, better than 9th then. Yes or no?
9th, the last part of 9th is one of the worst editions of 40k I've played.
Okay.
I think.
Yep.
Having said that, I still, even when it was bad, I like playing, even when it was bad, I still enjoyed playing the game because I was playing it with friends, playing it with guests, but mainly playing it with friends. And I'm in a privileged place where I have a lot of armies, so the ones that were making my eye twitch and my nose bleed I could put to one side and focus on just playing Orcs and Death Garden. Part of the reason for building the whole Necron army up is because they're easy, let's just play them.
Yeah.
And I understand there's a lot of people out there that couldn't just move on like I could. But yeah, 9th Tournament Edition was probably... It wasn't a good place, was it? It was dark days for most of us.
Yeah. I weirdly actually had quite a nice experience with 9th.
Nice.
That's only because I didn't really play it fully to the rules. No, it sounded like I was going to say I didn't play it. We didn't play it to the rules. We played it a lot. We skipped the stuff that was just getting too much. And as horrible as it sounds, because it kind of defeats the point in the game, we did quite often just cut out the secondaries and play nice primary missions, and it was perfectly fine then, without having to. There's a lot of fudging to get secondaries. Yeah. There's things like people taking an Inquisitor, a Psyker Inquisitor with a Black Templars army, so that they can try and score secondaries for the ritual and stuff like that, and it was losing its narrative edge as well. So cut it all out.
Well, that's one of the pluses in 9th edition. The only secondaries you get are in that Leviathan deck.
Yeah. And
they've really thought about them. They're much more... They make more sense. They just make more sense. Primarily, I'm inspired and motivated by the narrative more than anything, and the beautiful models, and the playing with my friends, and lots of... Okay, so apart from that, what have the Romans ever done for us? But the secondaries in the Leviathan deck just make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And all of that, hey, I need an Inquisitor, all that stuff that you're talking about is gone, like Kale and Kiwis, never to be seen again. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Have you seen... I haven't seen Kale recently. I hope it is gone. Horrible.
I'm not sure it existed to begin with. Maybe it was one of those myths on the internet, like the Earth being round.
Yeah, can't possibly be round. Have you ever looked outside?
You'd fall off.
You'd fall. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Mm.
Let's do some questions, Winters.
Okay.
Let's start with the Lorish one.
Okay, it's a good start.
This is a good one. This is from Tugboat. I like this question a lot. Alfarius and Omegon have been described as twins sharing one soul.
Yes.
The Alpha Legion also preaches unity and is indoctrinated to such a degree that they may well lose a sense of individuality and identity. When Alfarius died, is it feasible that his soul could inhabit a legion's worth of empty vessels that have no identity other than the Legion? It's already shared between two, so in 20 or 2,000 out of the question is 20 or 2,000 out of the question. If so, there may be more truth to the phrase "I am Alfarius." An individual legionnaire may house only a shard of Primarch's hefty soul individually, but a legion's worth could bear the burden. So it's not really a question; it's a thought point, I guess.
Right.
And I just thought it was quite unique. It was quite an interesting thing to think about.
Well, even though I've read Praetorian of Dawn, I'm not entirely convinced that Alfarius is dead, or that was Alfarius.
Okay.
It is 40k.
Yep.
No matter what Omegon felt, and whether that was actually Omegon. The thing about anything coming from an Alpha Legion's point of view is they're unreliable narrators. And if you've read The End and the Death, Volume 1, when he talks about unity of purpose across the Alpha Legion, well, there's a section in that where two Alpha Legionnaires go at it, and one kills the other one. So unified in purpose is also... So whether he's dead, not sure. Probably not sure. Unified, See, when you turn from the Alpha Legion in 40k, quite clearly there are some Alpha Legionaries out there that are very, very chaos. Because once you turn from the light of the Emperor, then where have you got left to turn? But it's just as likely that there are some ultra-loyalist Alpha Legion out there in the realm of 40k as well, and that Alfarius / Omegon, or both of them, were playing a very, very long game. They're the buried dagger, the hand in the dark, the blade you do not see coming. Yeah.
So what do you think specifically about the idea that if Alfarius did die, I think what Tugboat's suggesting is that in a very literal sense, they all are Alfarius because they had no identities of their own. Or are you countering that by saying, well, actually, you can't trust that was the condition they were in the first place because they're completely unreliable, sneaky boys?
Well, I disagree with the premise. And I also disagree with the idea that they don't have identities of their own.
Okay. There we go. Yeah. So Tugboat.
The facsimile, what they show to people, what's that? The facade that they give to everyone else outside of the Alpha Legion is I am Alfarius.
Yeah.
But that is a facade. And it goes deeper than that.
And that's based on the idea that one is Legion, first of all. The idea that I'm Alfarius is we are Legion. And the second part of that is that we are everyone, we are anything, we are, I'm Alfarius, I'm John, I'm whatever.
See,
right?
You're describing symptoms, you're describing the weapons of war. Everything you described are the weapons they use in order to prosecute their war, but the weapons are not them. Why do they do that? What are the motivations? What were they bred for? Leads to those outcomes. They were bred to be the blade that you don't see coming. And so the weapons that you're describing are just a part of the arsenal of the Outer Legion, and also the surface level of their identity. It goes deeper than that. It's 40k. It always goes deeper than that.
Always goes deeper. Okay. So, I mean, over time, we've discussed Alpha Legion already a few times. I'm sure over time we'll explore a little bit more Alpha Legion stuff. But I think, generally, it's a nice. I like the idea. It's a nice idea that you're putting forward in their Tugboat. But Winters just basically destroyed the whole thing. And no. I think it's that what your starting information is wrong in the sense that Alpha Legion operate on way deeper levels than just that, if that makes sense. Next up we got Andy Harrowing, and this is a harrowing
that's Alpha
joke.
Legion.
Yes. This is an important question. Do Tyranids poop, or do they just keep filling up until they go back to the goo pools to be reabsorbed?
Good question. Basically, are there some Tyranids at the end of a bio-infestation that have taken over the planet that look like my fat cat downstairs?
Yeah.
And crawl to the bowl and that because they can't lift their own weight anymore? Is that what it looks like at the end of a Tyranid infestation? That's an interesting thought. They must poop, surely.
Well, would they? Because they are organisms that are adapt, right? And they are perfected in order to be the exact tool that they need to be. Like, so some of them, their bodies are crafted into weapons and things that they need. They don't need to poop. They're not going to be around long enough. They don't need to develop a whole digestive system. And why would they digest things if they have these big enzyme pools, acid baths, that digest the whole thing at the end? That wouldn't be very economic of them, would it?
Well, are they even eating? A bit like a Hollywood actor. Are they just taking pills and having injections instead? When they're ripping and tearing their way across the planet, they might swallow a little bit here or there, but so long as all the biomass is scattered in big floppy parts, left, right and centre, it'll all end up into the pools at the end. So do they even need to eat, let alone poop?
Yeah, you know what? I think you've just cracked it. They don't need to eat, do they? There's no point in it.
There's enough energy inside of them to do the tasks that they're set out to do by the hive mind, and if there isn't enough energy inside of them to do the tasks, then they'll just build bigger or other I'm not sure they eat.
Isn't there a lictor that almost destroys itself to pack itself through a tube?
Yes, that one's called Jeff.
Jeff the lictor.
So
you know what? They don't need to eat, and then they don't need to poop.
No.
There's just mess everywhere.
Yeah.
And hopefully they might have bits that are open, so they just go and it just falls out the back.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Ripper swarms are going to come do that later.
It's like zombies don't really need to eat, right? In The Walking Dead and stuff like that, they're all and ripping and biting and swallowing, but it's all falling straight through them. Yeah. Zombies don't, they're dead on the inside, so they haven't got all the gastric stuff to poop it through. It just it falls out.
Surprisingly, Andy, that was quite a good question.
That was one of the better questions we've had.
I've not thought about it before, and it does. Yeah. I'd like to think that he was just sat there at his kitchen, like breakfast table or something, and went, "The Tyranids need to poop," eating his Cocoa Pops.
Probably thinking, "I really need to poop. I wish I was a Tyranid."
The next up, we've got another Andy. 2 Andys in a row. That's insane. This is Andy R. And Andy R asks, I was reading the new Warhammer 40k rulebook and saw the Gehenna system named a couple of times. A quick Google search shows it has been mentioned back in 5th edition. Just wondered what initially caught Winters' attention about it when he based a lot of his narrative battles in that system.
Good question. The name sounded good.
There we go. Next question. CJ says, if you could, how would you expand the god-specific traitor legions?
The god-specific traitor legions?
So what? I think CJ's referring to the 4... we've only got 3 of them at the moment. We've got Death Guard, World Eaters, and Thousand Suns. How would you expand them?
Okay. I would refer CJ to the answer that I gave in my most recent live stream, because he may have been there and asked me that question in the most recent live stream. I went off on a bit of a rant about what I would do.
Okay.
So I'm not going over it again.
Okay, that's fine.
But demon engines, I think.
I was about
demon
to say,
engines.
All I'd ask for, Thousand Suns need their own demon engines, and not a Warhammer Fantasy monster that got ported over.
Yeah.
And I think World Eaters could do with something to make them a little bit more exciting.
They can do with some demon engines as well. Yeah. Some really long range tanks. World Eaters like some really big guns.
Yeah.
Juggernauts, not just on the Lord. They gave a lot of demon engines for the Death Guard when they came out, but haven't done it for the Thousand Suns or the World Eaters. So demon engines is the quickest and easiest thing that they can do. And okay, you don't have to book a live stream anymore. But basically, they can make like essentially 2 units. But out of those 2 types of demon engines, you can have 4 demon engines, because here's the Forge Fiend, which becomes a Mauler Fiend. Here's the other thing, like the really close combat-y Khorne demon, and here's one with all the claws off and instead missile racks over his shoulder, and boom, you've got 2. It's quick, it's easy, they'll sell like hotcakes, and they'll not just sell like hotcakes to the people who collect those models, people who want to do bad mech, or people who want to do chaos stuff, or use them to help do some conversions and things like that. So I think they'll sell quite well.
Yeah. And it was weird, wasn't it? Because Death Guard were like the archetype for what... well, actually, no, they weren't.
Thousand Suns came
first, yeah.
Yep.
So Death Guard came second and showed what they could have done with Thousand Suns, but then they went back to more of a Thousand Suns approach with World Eaters.
I'm convinced. I have no evidence to back me up, but I'm convinced the World Eaters Codex was anemic. It was noticeably small, and also it came out towards the end of 9th edition. I have a feeling that 9th edition was so unsuccessful that World Eaters was a break glass in case of an emergency thing, and they broke the glass and released it at the end of edition just to get some revenue in, and that there's a World Eaters 2.0 codex coming out with
I hope so.
More juggernauts in, and with a few other bits in here, there and everywhere.
You need an engine that goes around and like just like a lawnmower.
Yeah,
like the flesh mowers from the thingy, except it's just a massive one and it drives forward and just lawn mows everything.
Exactly. And it doesn't need to poop either. It's just about blood.
All it does is all the skulls go up into a little... It's got like a glass orb on the top. Body goes in, skull pops out in the top bit, blood flies everywhere, and then all the bones and muck come out the back.
Dude, imagine if there was something like a Defiler or like a Venom Crawler or like a Crabby type thing with like 2 hands which were just mowing and stabby claws, and then on the back of it there's like a War of the Worlds basket, and in the basket it's just full with like 100+ skulls, and it just grabs and then shreds and takes the skull and throws it in the basket and takes the skull and throws it in the basket. Imagine that model. That would look sick.
It would look amazing, and then the more skulls that it got, the more it powers up. So
call it Corn Skull Keeper. Yeah, more skulls.
Keeper.
Or Skull Reaper.
Skull
or
Harvester.
Something with skulls. Skull Harvester. Yeah. Corn Skull Harvester engine.
And then it can also build the Blood Harvester, which is a different thing, and it's got loads of horrible like pipes with big spikes at the end, and it slashes through units, and it sucks all the blood out when it's going through them, and it squirts it straight into. It's got a portal in the back of it,
right?
And the blood just gushes straight into the realm of Khorne. It's just free flowing, blasting out into the realm of Khorne everywhere.
Nice.
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Like the Combine Harvester throwing all the stuff out the back, but it's just a spray of blood, like a blood mist. I want 2 of them.
Yeah. And then when you're in the realm of Khorne, all these portals are opening up in the sky, and just blood is raining out of them from these blood harvesters that are out.
Dude, Games Workshop should hire us, I tell you.
I think so.
Yeah. Instead, we get like Leagues of Votann with not Devastators, not Terminators, not Berserkers.
Yeah.
More of the same. Come on. We've got them. What we want is stuff that is not the same.
We want the Skull and the Blood Harvester now.
What do we want? Skull Harvester. When do we want it? Well, hopefully in the next edition. Yeah.
That's how we'd expand. So CJ, there you go. You've just created 2 fantastic new demon engines. Thanks for your question. Very kind. Let's go on to a non-Warhammer related question that is still important. It's important.
These normally go wrong though, Chris.
No, this one actually is completely innocent. It's fine. It's from the Smartest Idiot.
That doesn't sound like a hopeful start.
The Smartest Idiot's got 2 questions. One of them is a proper question.
Okay.
About the world of Warhammer. The other one just says New York pizza or Chicago style pizza. Now, do you know what a New York style pizza is?
I've heard.
Yeah, massive slices are like you have to fold them. You can buy a slice.
Yeah.
You know, if you're hungry, you go, "Yeah, I want a slice," and they give you a slice of pizza, and it's like eating a whole medium Domino's pizza or something. It's huge.
Okay.
Hey, give me a slice. Chicago pizza is real thick, right? Now, I used to hate Chicago style pizza. Okay. It's like a pie. It's like a pizza pie, right? It's like it got a crust. But I've grown to like it. I think Chicago style thick crust pizza is really good now.
Why? Why have you grown to like it? Why has it grown on you?
I don't know. I used to think it was just too much bread and it was too cakey. And recently I had one, and it was like, I really enjoy the thickness of this.
Yeah, but cake is good.
Yeah, cake is good. And if you cover it in cheese, it's still good cake, right?
Cheese is good, so long as it's not made from oats.
Or beans. Anyway, the Smartest Idiot actually did have a question that says, what would you want to see happen with the Inari? They're a very interesting faction that gets referenced, but it seems like besides resurrecting Guilliman, have yet to do anything. And also they brought some rubric back. What would you do with them? I think that's a very interesting question.
I've got a really good answer, actually.
Well, you go for it.
You know, the Great Rift and Imperium versus Chaos, and the Horus Heresy in this versus... It's always something happening to the Imperium and something happening to the Imperiums. There could be a lore advancement, a book series, a number of books which help propel and change the future of the Eldar race. And that could be the revolution, the civil war between the remaining Craftworlders and the upcoming Ynnari. And that's also a perfect excuse to get the Harlequins and the Dark Kin involved. And it's also a perfect excuse if their race is, the craft world is literally teetering on the brink of extinction. It's also an excuse to bring the Exodites in. There could be some real revolution in the Eldar society where the Ynnari are basically assimilate the remaining craft worlders, and those that don't come with them, they wipe out and kill and blah, blah, blah. One, it gets rid of those pesky craft worlders that should have died 10,000 years ago. I'm all up for that. But two, the Wraith Stones, it says in the Gathering Storm books, for example, that their Wraith Knights, their Wraith Guard, their Wraith constructs move differently to the ones that just craft worlders use, because the way Wraith constructs work is they've got all these stones over them, and Grandma and Grandpa are powering them and moving them, except for Wraith Knights, actually. Wraith Lords, sorry. Wraith Knights, not the Wraith Lords. They actually have pilots, those twin pilots inside. But yeah, the Wraith constructs move. They are actually alive. They actually have a soul inside the Wraith bone, which can lead to some interesting new models, because if it's alive and if it's Wraith bone and if it's psycho-reactive, and it is, then they could grow and change into different shapes, into different forms. They could morph. So it allows Games Workshop to build a whole new range of Wraith Guard, Wraith Knights, Wraith Lord models with spikes, with bones, however they want to do it, make them look cool, make them look evil as well as graceful. And we do know how much Games Workshop like selling us a lot of new models. So you've got a whole new model range going on there. You've got the story of the Imperium moving forward, the Return of the Silent King moving the Necron story forward. You've got the Leviathan coming in now, moving the Tyranids forward, and the Ynnari are just hanging there. They're like a fruit ripe for plucking, which can help propel the Eldari story forward as well, and help Games Workshop generate some new models and figures and things.
Now listen, I know that Games Workshop are watching this podcast and writing down all our ideas.
They do.
Blood Harvester, Skull Harvester, whatever, don't listen to what Winters just said. Can you please just do Striking Scorpions in plastic first? You can, honestly, you can do a really cool Wraith, living Ynnari, Wraith Lord, or whatever you want to do, but Striking Scorpions first. That's it.
No.
Thank you.
Instead of redo all of them, let them die out.
No.
Let's have some kind of Shakespearean tragedy there. And let's move forward, okay? Let's move forward.
I mean, the craft world, I mean, they could become the Ynnari, because the Ynnari's whole thing is they're like dead elves, aren't they? So, yeah, that could work. Thanks, Smartest Idiot. When I say your name, it feels like I'm not being very nice to you, but I guess if you're the smartest idiot, that's like the top rank of something, isn't it? So
yeah. I see it as a compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment.
I mean, I'm an idiot, and you call me an idiot all the time. You've never called me the smartest idiot.
Smartest. That's because there already is one. Just ask the question.
True. Yeah,
can't be two of them. Runt Herder. I don't know why I sang it, but anyway, Runt Herder. Can you see each of the factions in 40k eventually getting some form of figurehead trying to achieve godhood and have a significant presence in the Immaterium? First of all, it does. I see why you asked the question, because it does feel that way, that everyone's kind of got that thing. So you've got orcs, their psychic powers, they've got Gork and Mork, and it's like Gaz is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and is he gonna just get infinitely bigger until he becomes a deity or whatever? We've got Eldar making death gods like the Incarn.
That's right, you got it right.
All that other stuff.
Yeah.
It does look that way, but I think actually, like, we got the Silent King. Nothing like that isn't the highest it's going to go. So I don't think you're going to see a godhead for each faction, because I don't think there are enough factions outside the ones that have already got the gods going that could even be in the warp. Because Tau have got no warp presence. Tau have no warp presence at all. Apart from, there's a little thing going on with what's his name?
Farsight,
Commander Farsight, and his magic, potentially Chaos Sword or whatever.
It's a Necron sword.
Necron sword. Okay,
but
well, that kills that theory then. But yeah, I don't think there's actually enough outside. We've got the kind of stuff going on with the Primarchs and the Emperor. You've got the Eldar stuff, but that's already been around. The Orc stuff, it's already been talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
Are there any other... what's his name? The new Archaphane. He wants to be like that. He wants to achieve godhood, doesn't he?
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Or
he wants to ascend to be one of the great 5 Chaos Gods, who are not gods, by the way.
Okay.
But they're not really gods.
No, they are...
They didn't make anything.
Yeah, you're right. They're actually... they are a byproduct, aren't they? They're oh my God. They're like when you boil soybeans and you scrape the cheese off the top and you get tofu.
Yes.
It's just a facet of the soybean that is far removed, but it is not the soybean anymore.
The Chaos Gods are the tofu scum of the 40k universe that you scrape off and throw away. Yes. They're byproducts. Yeah. They're like kale. You've heard of it. Yeah.
But is it real? There's enough of it to make you think it's real, but is it real?
And if you ever go down the way of trying some kale, once you taste it, forever it will dominate your destiny.
Oh.
Yeah.
There we go. This is a question that I've been really let's do Tomo 91 first.
Right. Okay.
It's based on the other one before. Which model army range needs the most love and attention from GW?
I don't think there's enough Space Marine lieutenants, is there?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, Space Marines definitely need some love and attention.
Yeah.
Everyone else pretty much spot on.
Yeah. Well, except for Votan, they need a whole new model range using their AI constructs. World Eaters we've touched on. Thousand Suns we've touched on. Death Guard could get it too. Empress Children are coming, they could get it too. Having played Necrons, that could do with a couple of chunky things in there. The Tyranids are getting their refresh.
Eldar.
No.
Eldar needs Striking Scorpion.
No, they don't. They need their Shakespearean tragedy.
Okay. Can I just say, I'm just going to say this right here.
Yes.
For so many years, all I want is Emperor's Children as a faction. If these go wrong, I'm going to be so sad, but I'm going to sell all my Warhammer. I'm just going to buy Emperor's Children. That's it. I'm just going to be that. I'm going to be Emperor's Child Chris.
When I was 11, I wanted a Star Wars Lego Galactic gunship, and I didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm still waiting for that Galactic gunship. Instead, I got this moon base thing instead. And moon bases can't fly. Yes, it looked cool. Yes, it was still Lego Star Wars. But I couldn't run around my living room going and stuff like that. And yes, I was still playing with Lego at 11. I was still playing with Lego now.
Yeah.
So,
by the way,
sometimes we don't get what we want, Chris. It makes us stronger, apparently.
I asked for some reason to see what Winters looked like when he was a young lad, and he immediately coughed up the goods, and he showed a picture. And if you want to imagine what Winters looked like with his moon base that wasn't the galactic thingy that he
gunship,
galactic
gunship,
almost exactly like he looks now, but just slightly smaller
and younger.
Probably about that big, but exactly the same everything was going
slightly
on.
Smaller, like I'm stood a bit further away.
Like a bit, just like I thought at first he'd shown us a picture where he was stood further away, and then I realised he was actually just smaller.
And I asked Warsmith Chris from a picture for when he was younger, and he just showed me this vial with this liquid floating around in it.
Yeah, that did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, Tomo 91, all of them. All of the factions.
Yeah, all the factions, all the time. Give it to me, inject it into my veins.
All models now.
But, no capes and no striking scorpions.
Do you know what range is really small, but I think is actually a really good range?
Votan?
No, Gene Stealer Cults. I think Gene Stealer Cults has the right kits, the right variety, because it's a transitional range, isn't it? Starting from normal dudes all the way up to like rare pure strain Gene Stealers. They've got it all.
That range, when they released that new faction, at least, semi-new faction back from the 80s, reborn, rehash, same with Votan. Votan is a faction, rehash, reborn from the 80s. And that one they made stand out and made look significantly different. Gene Stealer Cults look gorgeous, and you're right, they could do with some more mining equipment. It would look great.
Some more mining equipment, okay.
Yeah.
I thought
there's got to be, it's Warhammer 40k, right? So boring machines and bigger trucks and stuff with loads of sheet metal wielded on the side and big frickin' laser cannons. They could do some cool trucks.
The grabby suit from Aliens.
Yes.
The grabby suit. The loader suit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So all of them. John Luke asks a very controversial and provocative question. I'm not going to answer it. It's only for you to answer. The question is. Are Tau the problem, or is Sultan just not very good at playing a shooty army?
That is a very provocative question. It's probably because he's French. John Luke. How dare you?
Jean-Luc.
Sultan smashed Tau in the Sunstrike campaign during 9th or 8th edition. He was very good at playing Tau. 8th, was it?
Yeah,
he was very good at playing Tau. He loves playing Tau.
Yeah, but they were all right then. When he got them... When he was playing them, I'm sure you had like really good cold stars and stuff.
That's when they used to slap hard, like your teacher's ruler. Now they just kind of slap like some wet seaweed falling on your foot.
Yeah. And it's sad. I've got a whole box of crisis suits here. I've got 12 crisis suits, and I look at the data sheet for them and I think, if I painted these, I'd have a bad time. If I turned up with 12 crisis suits, I was like, this is a really cool theme for, have a crisis suit. No, doesn't work.
And if you dropped it on your foot, you'd just have a wet foot that smells of fish.
Yeah. Oh dear. Right. What have we got left? Okay. This is a new type of question. We've not had this kind of question before.
Right. I'll strap myself in.
It's from Dragos. It's breaking the fourth wall, so to speak, and looking at Games Workshop as a company. So the question is, actually, Dragos has written discussion question at the start, so you know what kind of question it's supposed to be.
Okay.
How soon, if at all, do you think Games Workshop will get into the business of selling their own 3D printable designs? This is a question. Can I answer first?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
I don't think that Games Workshop are going to do it for a very long time, if at all. The reason why I think that, unless they're like proper forced into it, the reason why I think that is they have placed a considerable value in their plastic production, and controlling the flow of their product. Their whole thing works on you not being able to quickly mass produce and get your own inferior material version of what they're offering. That's just what I think.
Yeah. I've got did I tell you the 3D thing? I'll tell you this thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who works for Honda. He's been Honda for like 20 years, blah, blah, blah. And he's telling me about car parts, like 3D printing for car parts. You know, like the fins they stick on the back of a car, or the badge, or the fake hood, or a little doorknob, or a cap on a thing. 3D printing has been going on in the car industry a decade or two way before it's been going on, way before anyone was able to miniaturize it down and make little bolt guns or shoulder pads or things like that. They've been smashing it out in the car industry for a long time. And he was telling me back in the day, everyone was saying, oh, you're all going to be out of a job. All this extra stuff that people are going to be able to produce, all the little things, people are going to make fake ones or third-party ones or this, that, and the other, and the accessory market and all the stuff and all these bits, they'll go and they'll be swamped by 3D printed parts, and we'll be able to print them at the workshop and blah, blah, blah. And it never happened. It took a chunk out of that market, but you know what? If there is a Subaru Impreza guy and he wants the Subaru Impreza doorknobs that are exactly the Subaru Impreza doorknobs, despite the fact that he can get them printed or get them from a third-party manufacturer down the road, he gets the Subaru Impreza doorknobs.
Yeah.
He gets the little thing on the thing. He gets the little thing over there. And I think Games Workshop, I mean, it's just a guess. I have no idea. But I think Games Workshop are going to have a chunk bitten out of their market. But how many of us actually want the Games Workshop Land Raider, the Games Workshop Demon Prince, even if I lined up my Chaos Knights army against your Chaos Knights army and yours was 3D printed and mine wasn't 3D printed and your 3D print was absolutely perfect and you couldn't tell a difference, you could give them to a Games Workshop dude and say which, and they would not know. And yours was a tenth the price of mine. I would still be like, 3D printed shit. And you'd be crying and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so it's been a thing in other industries. It's a growing thing in our industry in this hobby, because they've miniaturized it down to this kind of scale. But how far will it actually go? People want to buy the things, I think.
Yeah, I think a smart way, if they needed to dip their toe in it, would be to sell terrain, right?
Yeah.
Because scenery, terrain has never been a huge... Like, the kits don't last very long. They put a kit out, you can get it for a little while, and then they replace it with something else, and then they split it and they re-release it in a different box and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't scream to me that they pay a super amount of attention to their scenery kits. Perhaps they could do something like that if they were going to do it at all, but I just cannot see. I mean, for a start, plastic is much nicer to work with for modelling. It's much nicer to work with and much more resilient than resin.
I could see them doing it for parts and bits. Maybe they could have a 3D printing department, so all of those little bits that you want to put on your miniatures, instead of going to a 3D person, you could just get them from Games Workshop. They could do it for that, but then they're competing with these people. I don't think they want to do that.
They wouldn't do it.
The thing is, we're collectors at the end of the day. You see how much the old stuff goes up on eBay for, and I'm not talking about old lead miniatures like Mordy and John wants for his Mordy and Iron Guard, which cost like £20 for one lead thing. I'm talking about plastic stuff as well. You have command point tokens from 7th edition. Do you remember the skull tape ruler they made? Which looks like a servo skull. I think that's like £100 on eBay.
That's a lot,
Someone could print that out and make that and run off 1,000 copies of it, and you would have no idea whether it was the fake one or the real one. But there is a whole, just the market on eBay for the official Games Workshop stuff shows you just how much of a market there is for people to collect the official Games Workshop stuff. So it's a threat to the industry. Will it wipe it out? Now, I could be completely wrong.
Yeah,
I have been wrong before. My wife reminds me that I have been wrong once or twice in my life. And I could be wrong on this one, but there are people that will go to the market and will buy a knockoff designer bag because they don't want to spend the money. They want something that looks like it so that they can have the function of it and it looks aesthetically how they want. But they don't want to spend the money, and there are people that would never do that and would want to have the original thing because of the feeling it gives them to own the actual thing, and there's some prestige behind it. And I guess what will happen is, if 3D printing becomes so commonly available, there will be a level of prestige when you buy a Games Workshop product. You know, I've got this beautiful sculpt, I've bought it, and it's the actual Games Workshop one.
blah blah blah.
Now, there is the other side of it, though, which I think leans further into its question, which is, if 3D printing became ubiquitous and was everywhere, then Games Workshop at that point might decide to say, okay, we'll just sell STC. Then they own the STL files and the things. And if it's everywhere, and the only way to get Games Workshop products is to 3D print the products, and instead they become a rules thing or whatever. They become whatever they become. Well, actually, what they'd end up doing is making all the money off the IP, because the IP is worth more than the model thing now. Their IP would be very, very worth loads, and they'd sell you the stuff to the... So, yeah, if Games Workshop might go down that route if 3D printing became ubiquitous.
Yeah, you'd pay for it. You'd pay for the traditional Games Workshop sculpting and design. They've got a style that is definitely, you can very quickly tell when something's Games Workshop.
Yep.
And they've stayed true to that style, even though there's been modern trends. There's some really great 3D sculptors out there who put up STLs that are very elaborate and got all this stuff going on in it, but it looks like an art piece, very cool art piece, whereas a Games Workshop model looks more like a playing piece in a Games Workshop game. It has an identity, and you know that's a piece to play a Games Workshop game with. And I think the best way to look at that is that there are certain Forge World models which don't look like the other. So if you were to compare the range, look at the Games Workshop mainline range of models, and then look at some of the Forge World models that have been created for that same faction, you can clearly tell that one's been designed by someone else or a different group of people. So you'll end up paying for... Yeah, we know Games Workshop, when they actually bother to proofread their books properly, can make really nice books. We know that they can write their lore when they get good writers in, and they know they've got a massive, great world to draw from. And maybe it would become a thing like that. You wait for the new STL to come out, you pay your money, you print your model, and then you're going to be buying the £50 really fancy book that they're going to do for your army or whatever.
But 3D printing technology is going to have to turn into toasters. Like, they're going to be like toasters, they're perfect, they're everywhere. If you want to make toast now, we don't chop it up and stick it under the grill in the oven anymore, do we? No, everyone's got a toaster. You use the toaster. It's the best thing for making toast. And if 3D printers were like that and everywhere, and were able to print really tiny details, and that's the future, then Games Workshop might say, okay, we'll stop doing the miniatures, we'll just do the thing. But I think we're quite some way away from that, and I think there is still an argument. Even toasters. People buy posh bread. I've seen posh bread.
I've seen it too.
You know? Because you get bread makers now, maybe not toasters. Maybe bread makers is a better analogy, because toasters, you just toast the bread.
Yeah.
The bread maker is the thing that makes the bread, and there's houses out there with bread makers in, and I've walked into someone's house before and went, oh, that's lovely, and they'll go, wow, don't you know, I make my own bread. That's the smell of freshly baked. And here's a thing that I made with rye seed and squirrel poop and kale. And I say, get that abomination away from me, hit them round the head, and ran out the door and immediately called the police. And then they were dragged off and put in a prison somewhere in Mexico and fed tofu for the rest of their life, where I hope they rot. And
meanwhile, did you pick up a loaf of Kingsmill farmhouse?
Oh.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, a proper loaf, thick cut Kingsmill. Here's the thing. If you only had butter and it was a proper thick loaf of Kingsmill, fresh, toasted, fresh butter. Oh, just that. Just that. You don't need no Nutella. Well, you can add the Nutella, you can add the Marmite, you can add the jam, you can put what you want, but toast is so good. Just toast and butter, mate. It's lovely.
The other day, we had a fancy meal last week, and it required a block of real butter, because usually we have like Lurpak, something spreadable, because there's prep work when you want to use real butter, right? You can't just take it out of the fridge, so you have to leave it out. And I took out the real butter, left it out for a little bit so that it was ready to spread. And I had thick sliced Kingsmill toasted with real butter, and it's so good. It's so good. Real butter is just blows you. If you're one of those people you only eat margarine or some kind of spread, go and try some butter. You'll cry. You'll be like, "What is this?"
Here's the thing, though. My wife, you know, my wife's a bit of a foodie. She's a great cook. Blah blah blah.
I've never been privy to it because she always kicks me out before the food's ready.
Yeah, she's never good. You don't need feeding. Look at you. But you've heard anyway. So yeah, I've been since real butter since I met her.
Yeah.
Damn. That's why I put on, because she can. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Anyway, the guy, whoever we were just talking to, real butter, Dragos, real butter.
Real butter.
The answer. We've got 3 questions left.
I would rather pay for someone's product, be it a Chanel bag. If I really was into Chanel bags or the little clicky things on top of my door, I'd rather pay, if I had the money, for the real thing.
Yeah.
Then print it off myself, even if I had the best bread maker in the kitchen.
I tell you one thing. One thing that Games Workshop have done that was really, really rude. Okay. And I'm not saying that I did this, but I'm saying anyone who found an alternate way of getting hold of this model, I think was well within their rights. Death Guard, new faction. Great. All these models come out with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the Space Marine Heroes Death Guard. I think it was season 3, series 3. I got those because I like the variations. I like having those. Got some great sculpts in it.
Yep.
At this point, there was only one malignant plague caster.
Yes.
The weird guy with the blowy mouth. He's got mouth.
Puff coming out of his hands. Yeah,
puff coming out of his hand. It's meant to line up. It's a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
In Japan, you could get a new malignant plague caster who looked amazing, who was casting this big plague thing above his head. Only available in Japan.
Only available in Japan. And I would really like to thank that viewer or subscriber or whoever you are that sent me that model from Japan. I really appreciate it. He's next door. Thank you.
Yes. So only A-list Warhammer celebrities could get hold of him, right?
Oh, now that A-list,
and that A-list Warhammer celebrity then gave one to you, which was very kind of them.
I think that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
No, I just retconned it. I just made it sound as if that the guy who gave you the... No, okay, never mind.
I wasn't listening. Move on. Three questions.
We'll move on. We'll leave it. It was nice.
That was on a... Yeah, that was good. Don't push that rock down that mountain. It took you a long time to get it up there.
It's true, yeah.
It takes you a long time to get it up these days.
It really does. It's all that butter.
Butter, yes, butter. Right.
Mootle Dootle. Right. I'll read the question. See what you make of it.
Okay.
What will the follow-on from Arcs of Omen be lore-wise, and when do you reckon it will take shape? Lots of Nids versus Marines, but interested in Dark. Okay. Mootle Dootle is essentially saying, when are we going to get more Dark Admech story?
Yeah, the follow-on from Arcs of Omen, that storyline will break open when Dan Abnett finishes Pariah, the Eisenhorn versus Ravener Inquisitor series.
Oh, okay.
He's done the first 2, and I think I'm fairly convinced now that the story threads that they're delving into in the main lore in Arcs of Omen tie into that.
Okay. There we go. So we just got to wait a little bit and see where it's going. I too want more Dark Mechanicum. I think it's a really good chance for G-Dubs to push the boat out a bit on the back of Votan, who are very pedestrian. They could really go for it with bad
people People think, how is this going to tie in? And I don't mean directly into the Inquisitors. What I mean is, the end of the Arcs of Omen thing, Vashtor is tunneling between space now. He's not in the warp, and he's not in this reality. And there's a couple of occasions now in the lore where they've talked about extant space. Spaces that are not our universe, and spaces that are not the warp. The Webway is one of them. Mm-hmm. The Realm of the Yellow King in the Ravenhall versus Eisenhorn series is another one of them. So only recently, in the last year or two, literally, are we being introduced to realms beyond the above and below, the realms in between. This is a whole new narrative thread that the novelists and the main lore writers are beginning to delve into. And what are all the Horus Heresy writers going to do once it's all done? Well, they're going to be working hard on the new stuff.
This is the thing that I think you've mentioned it before, where GW want to like really push, like have something really big happening. You know, we need another big.
They've said, or I forget where I got it from, but they would really like to. All the work they put into the Horus Heresy over the 16 years and bring all the writers together, they'd like to do something like that, but on a much smaller scale, maybe over the course of just a couple of years. I don't know what the scale is, but a smaller scale, do something like that for the modern 40k. So that's coming, which is awesome. And I'm here for it. I'm hot and ready for it.
Absolutely. And I think it's about time that that the 40k narrative really pushed along, so that we have
it is pushing along,
really pushed along.
It is though. They ripped the galaxy
really
in half.
Pushed along.
There's the thing, and all the Primarchs. I mean, there wasn't any, and now they've got 5 of them running around. They're all coming back.
Yeah.
It's pushing, but it's going to push. Even they're going to get it into second gear, then third gear, then the engine will break, and everyone will complain, and then they'll fix it, and finally it'll be great. It'll be fine. There'll be some backwards. There'll be some gearbox changes. There'll be people leaving the hobby. There'll be Luton is going to wet his pants. Valrak is going to leak the crap out of it, and some of it he'll get right as well. It's going to be exciting. We've got a good, exciting 10 years coming.
And Vashtor, is he still flying around on a planet?
He's flying around on a planet. So the planet is called Wormwood. Yeah. But Wormwood was Caliban before it was ripped apart. Yeah. And it is now a boring machine. It is a tunnel. It is. So they talk about 3. We know of. So Vashtor himself, and there's 3 types of these devices left in the galaxy that the old ones used to create the Webway. Right. And Vashtor's now got one of them. And this is the end of the Arcs of Omen. This is the twist at the end. Chaos 1.
So this thing actually creates a Webway of sorts. It literally bores through reality and makes a new.
Yes, that's what Wormwood Caliban Reborn does. With the demon engine that was inside the rock. I forget his name. Tachudka. He was in the Horus Heresy books. He's one of the keys to make. Yeah, it literally is a device which the old ones used to create the Webway with. And this thing can create new Webways, can burrow through the Webways, can go to other spaces.
That's big.
Blah, blah, blah. MacGuffin does what it wants. It does what he wants. He does what he wants. He's Vashtor. He does what he wants.
The Archifane. Yeah. Johnny Rockstar.
Nice.
This sounds. Read this as if the person was a little bit sad in their heart.
Like Johnny Silverhand from Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, whatever that is.
He was a rock star. Dead. Sad.
What will the law be to justify the removal of long-serving units like the assault marines and the command squads and the scouts and the blah 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 blah? Because that has a thing. So that has happened in between podcasts. Is that we were told officially that lots of the firstborn range are being retired.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but I understand that this was a natural progression. And those kits, they can't just keep making those kits forever. I'm trying to be happy about it, but really I love firstborn Space Marines.
some of them making the transition, like Sternguard have got a new kit. There was the old Sternguard models, and now there's the new Sternguard models in the Leviathan launch box. So we're going to see some of the Firstborn models just cross over.
But they're bigger.
Yeah, so Firstborn
they're Primaris.
Aren't going to be a thing, and everyone's going to be Primaris. Everyone's either going to cross the Rubicon, or you put 19 bits of ingredients in the bowl. Eye of Newt, Wing of Bat, and out of the bowl pops a Space Marine. In the future, there's going to be 22 ingredients. All the new Space Marines being cooked up in Macragge and Bal and Caliban and places like that. They're all going to be Primaris. It's where we are.
They've all got jalapenos in them, because jalapenos are great now.
Yeah.
Everything's got jalapenos in.
What law reason? What law reason are they going to give?
Well, I think the law reason is already well in place, isn't it? It's already well in place. They were already handing out Primaris vending machines to all the people that hadn't that weren't naughty.
Yeah.
So Mantis, no, actually, the people that were naughty did get the Primaris vending machine. They didn't get the Primaris, the grey armour ones, the plain. They didn't get the vanilla Marines to turn into their own ones. They were just told, right, this is the machine. Good luck. You're not getting any proper lads.
Yep.
I think it's been going for ages. And you know what? If the lore and the games we play, the narrative games we play, were anything to go by, like every Firstborn Space Marine has died like 20 times over in the history of us playing Warhammer. So they have to die out because there's no new ones being made. So every time one dies in battle, that's a Firstborn that will never come back.
They could organise intercessors into tacticals and devastators and things like that if they wanted to, but Papa Gilliman says no, we're doing it this way now. So that's another law reason why this is how we organise now. So there's plenty of reasons why.
Yeah.
Essentially, if in 100 years' time we had the same miniatures, say we lived for 100 years, say we lived even more than a year. I know it's difficult to imagine because we don't get out much, but say we lived 100 years and we're still playing with the same miniatures and the same tactical squad and the same Devastator squad, and that would be a bit boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and just because you can't buy them anymore, we all own them. We all have them, and we can all play with them still. Yep. If we
Look at Mordian John and his Iron Guard. They're his Mordian Iron Guard. They're like 30 years old, and he still plays with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've got any Firstborn stuff, and in particular if it's lead, and you don't want to play with it anymore, pack it away in some foamy peanuts, put it up in the attic, and then bring it down when your children have their children, and then sell it on the internet and make bang. Because the older stuff is going for a pocket these days, and the stuff that we're all like, oh, attack bikes going, bikes, store it away, it'll be worth a fortune in the future.
Yeah,
because we're all collectors at heart.
We are,
and there'll be people out there that want to collect that shit.
Nostalgia will affect the kids who got into Warhammer just before the Primaris Marines came out are going to have that level of nostalgia for Firstborns that we are already having now, which is why we're feeling a bit sad. I get it, because I did feel sad about it, because although the Space Marines that I was buying when I was a child are not the Space Marines that are available now. So this has happened multiple times throughout my life and playing Space Marines. In fact, I think at one point I had maybe 4 or 5 different iterations of a tactical Marine. Nice. And one of them, the first one, which was the 2nd edition starter set that I've got, it's the tiniest little guy just holding the bolt gun like that. I love him, man.
I know that guy. He's cool, man. I wish I'd have kept a chunk of them. I've probably got a couple of them.
I've got a couple somewhere. I've got the original Ragnar Blackmane in lead. I've got all kinds of stuff, and I gave some. I think. What edition was Assault on Black Reach?
I want to say 5th.
Yeah, so the 5th edition Assault on Black Reach Space Marines.
It could be 4th, but I want to say 5th.
I've given
it
them...
It might be fourth. Fourth or fifth.
Fourth.
Sorry.
Fourth or fifth.
Yeah.
I gave all those that I had to Sultan, and he's turned them into a bloody amazing Crimson Fist army. I'm sure it's all over Instagram now. Those models, go look at them. The mini marines in that army are my old classic Space Marines. Yep. And he's bringing them back to the field, and I love that. So next time you see those on the channel, just know that they were like, "Oh, I've got Space Marines." They were Chris's.
Yeah, I was thinking eventually when it all goes to Legends, what I was going to do was get all the 13th, right?
Yep.
And put them in a bin in the garden and set fire to it just for likes and clicks.
If you do that, I would be so angry.
Didn't someone do that with their Wood Elves army or something?
Probably.
When they destroyed the old world? There was that. There was someone.
Very sad.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah. And remember as well, I don't think anybody would care if you ran 5 Firstborn Space Marines and said that they were intercessors. I don't think anyone would care. No one would stop you from doing that.
Dude, in 15 years' time, you turn up at a local game store with a Firstborn army and put them down on the table and said these are Legends choices, or even more than that. You put them in the new organisation, like, hey, these little guys here, these are my intercessors.
Yeah.
Hey, these attack bikes here are my ATVs. Hey, these bikes over here, these are my Outriders. And you put them down, 15 years' time, people will go, oh my God, that's amazing. Just like when Mordy and John puts down all of his lead Iron Guard, and they look so tiny. It's like, I want to play against this shit. Yeah. People will love you for it. So yeah, things move on. And here we are in the next cycle. And yes, it's sad. It'll be really sad when I burn them all in the back garden, but I will definitely get a few clicks. Yeah.
Right, we've got one question left.
Okay.
This last question is from Triple D.
Triple D! He was in the doghouse, man.
He was.
I hope he sorted himself out.
This question was the one that he asked before, I think. And this is the one that we didn't use because he answered it himself. Then someone got really upset about it and thought we were being like, actually were angry with Triple D.
Someone on the internet got upset. Newsflash.
Yeah. And
wow.
I was like, Triple D, we actually do love Triple D, and it's a bit of a joke thing. But here we are.
Do we?
It's not a joke. I was furious at him.
Hate that guy. I've only invited him round here a few times now.
Here we go. Here's that question again then, without the naughty bit at the end.
Right.
Says Triple D. This better be a good question after all.
Yes.
That. A number of the Primarchs disappeared into the Eye of Terror, the Warp, after the Scouring. Mm-hmm. Each of the loyalists that has returned so far has had a narrative hook added. Gilliman's armour that he wasn't allowed to remove, Johnson's forest walk ability, etc. What do you think would be the narrative addition for each of those other Primarchs? How might they have changed in the last 10,000 years? Do we start the next episode with this question?
There's like 5 of them to go through, because 2 of them are dead, and 2 of them are already back, and there's 9 loyalists, so there's 5. Narrative hook. We could start the next one with this, or we could. I don't know. I mean, Korax is all very now, allegedly.
Yeah, he's meant to be.
Jagatai Khan, he was in the webway, which means Jagatai Khan could come out, and it was like half an hour for him.
Yeah, he'd just be a normal Primarch on a bike when he comes out. His narrative hook will be that he will be exactly as he was remembered.
I'll answer the question for 2, and I think we can close it on this one.
Okay.
Just to show that I'm fair when I'm asking for a Shakespearean tragedy in the death of Eldar Craftworlds. If I was writing the return of Primarchs from Games Workshop, here's what I would do. For Warhammer 40k 11th edition, I would have ADB and Dan Abnett sit down and write a story, one from Lehman Russ's point of view, and one from Korax's point of view. Get Graham McNeil involved, whatever. You could have a series with Graham McNeil, ADB, Guy Haley, Chris Raitt, and Dan Abnett, and a 5-book series, and it covers the return of Corax and Lehman Russ.
Yeah.
Because both of them have been hanging around in the warp, the Eye of Terror. Corax was going in there to kill some guys, and Lehman Russ took the 13th Great Company in there to kill some guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this series comes out bit by bit by bit by bit in the launch to 11th edition. And then the last book, The Big Twist, comes out in the launch of 11th edition. And you have Corax on the box and Lehman Russ on the box. And they're fighting each other. How about move the narrative forward? Bear in mind that I'm painting right now and collecting a Raven Guard army. Let's move the narrative forward in a way that is surprising by bringing one of them back, Lehman Russ, the untouchable, the supernova. When Magnus and Ahriman looked into his soul during the Prospero Burns, they couldn't even look that way. They couldn't look at his essence in the warp, because to look at it was like trying to look into the face of an exploding supernova. Lehman Russ is an unstoppable force of nature, an explosion that obliterates everything in front of them. Ahriman, even glancing his way, nearly tore his soul apart, and Lehman Russ comes back out of the warp. And he's untouched, and he's unpolluted. But Corax has fallen to chaos. And Corax is now a chaos-worshipping son of a bitch, full demoned up. Why does Magnus and Mortarion and Lorgar and all of these have to be the only Chaos Primarchs? Why don't you turn one of the good guy Primarchs into a bad guy and wrap it into a Black Library book series and wrap it up with a launch of edition, and Corax is all back, and the Raven Guard have to make a decision about whether they go bad or and it's Corax versus Lehman Russ on the cover.
Can I elaborate on that?
Go for it.
Corax comes back. He is not a Chaos. He has not joined the sides of Chaos. He is not rejoining his brothers in the Imperium. Corax becomes the rogue, the renegade, the taker of the lost. Corax goes back out and he reunites with the Raven Guard guy, the Raven Guard that leads his own warband of Night Lords, and the Night Lords who no longer have their Primarch who always was jealous of Corax being able to do the things that he wished he could do. The Night Lords come together, written by ADB, and they unite into a huge force that's half Raven Guard, half Night Lords, with their own renegade Primarch who doesn't serve anybody anymore, and they become a force in the Imperium that will fight the Chaos, because they hate Chaos, and they fight the Imperium because they don't trust the Imperium anymore. And you have a true neutral force. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good too. I would. That's good too. I like the idea of Corax coming back in a book series and people thinking, "Oh, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. And he's appearing and destroying maybe some Chaos worlds. He's appearing and but it's all false flag operations." Then at the end, the great big twist is, "I take your Night Lord bone and I'll run with it." Then the great big twist in the last book, which will be called The End and the Corax, and it'll be split into 3 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3. At the end of the Corax comes back, and the big twist is Corax is evil AF, and he's like, maybe he hates Chaos too and has been fighting Chaos for 10,000 years and wants to tear them apart, but he wants to tear down the Imperium as equally, and he hates Gilliman, and he hates the Lion, and he hates Ferrus, and maybe Lehman Russ. And one of the reasons why Lehman Russ hasn't come back all this time is because him and Corax have had a few tete-a-tetes already. Have had bashed heads in the Eye of Terror a couple of times already, because that's where they both allegedly went, were last. So yeah, I would bring back 2 loyalist Primarchs, but turn 1 evil. Well, tie it in with a Black Library book range and the release of their miniatures. And imagine the Corax miniature, full demonified Corax, the Raven, the Lord of Death, leading Night Lords. That would be epic.
Well, I think rather than, it sounds silly to say leading Night Lords, but leading all of the renegade, all the Space Marines that fell down the gap in between, who don't want to serve Chaos Gods and can't serve the Imperium. He's the gatherer of the lost. He's the 13th for the guys that are, the guys that lost.
Now you've sold me.
Yeah. So, but imagine that, and he's not evil, but he's not good either. He is quite literally the forsaken child of the Emperor. He's the one that just cannot abide either side. Is true neutral, and he doesn't just attract Night Lords. Night Lords are obviously compatible with that idea, but all kinds of people that have strayed, all kinds of Marines that have strayed away or haven't been able to reconcile with what happened back in the day.
That's a great idea, Warsmith Chris. What it boils down to is Games Workshop have the opportunity to bring back loyal Primarchs and one of them formula. Not be loyal at all. And if they did that, they would really milk my beans.
Yeah, we'd be making tofu all over the place.
Yeah. But if you do something as revolutionary as that, make sure you tie it into a Black Library series, because the guys at Games Workshop aren't great at writing lore, whereas the Black Library guys are awesome at writing lores. Having said that, the lore in the Arcs of Omen book was pretty damn good. It was much better than the Psychic Awakening and the Gathering Storm lore. It's read actually pretty solid lore.
The shit out of that series as well.
Yes.
I would love it, and if it was written. And this is the thing, I need ADB on the job, because I need ADB's way of writing baddies who aren't just mindless baddies.
Yeah.
I need him on it.
Yeah.
And there we go. You know what, Triple D? That was a good question. And
that was a good question.
Oh, it created good things. So today, just as a roundup for Games Workshop who are watching this.
Yes.
Hopefully you've written this down. So today we have the Blood Reaper Demon Engine, the Blood Harvester, the Skull Harvester, Dual Kit Demon Engine for World Eaters. If you could hurry up with that, please.
Mm-hmm.
We would like the Striking Scorpion plastic release. Don't listen to him. We'd also like the Emperor's Children to hurry up and be released, and they need a proper full release. We don't want a League's Votan. We'd like some extra mining gear for the Genocide Cults.
Yes, please.
And more importantly, we'd like you to call up ADB right now and get him started on the 6-book epic saga of the return of Korax and Russ.
Yeah, you could leave it. Actually, if you left it all with ADB, because it's that grey area, he would smash that. Yeah,
absolutely. So leave it with ADB. He'll knock out 6 books. That's fine. Obviously, culminating in the release of the new Korax Primarch model, who will be a Primarch that can lead Renegade and rebellious Space Marines. And you know what? You can have a mixed force. They're not any one chapter. It's whoever comes to him. He is the Lord of the Lost, the Shepherd in the darkness, who is gathering the souls of those who have been disowned or have been abandoned by the Imperium and abandoned by Chaos. So there we go.
Basically, have one of the sons come back who's really pissed off with the way things are. Because the guys who've come back so far are really pissed off, but they're still fighting to restore and fighting. Have one come back instead of fighting to restore and rebuild. Have one come back with the sole purpose of tearing it all down.
And if you want, Sevatar can come back as well with him.
Yeah.
Because Sevatar was all about that lifestyle. But you don't have to do that. But he's yours, ADB. You can bring him back. He could be like the leader model that comes out with a Primarch sometimes. You've got Araman, you've got Magnus the Red, you'll have Sevatar, and you'll have Korax.
Cool stuff. Yeah, and last thing on the Games Workshop shopping list, don't forget. Eldari, Shakespearean, Tragedy, Death of the Craft Worlds, Rise of the Ynnari. Whole new model range.
There we go. So we've just sorted out Games Workshop for the next 20, 30 years. We've even sorted out their 3D model business, and we have got you covered. We do this for free. Yeah, absolutely. I know. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for sending in your questions. You've all been very kind. You're all really nice. You're all lovely. You've got lovely questions, and you make us think. And we hope that you enjoy having an STD in your life.
Yeah.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom, Winters?
I'm all wisdomed out. I'm dry. I'm spent.
Just wave and say bye. Thank you.
Wave and say bye. Thank you. Bye. No, thank you too, Chris. That was lovely.
Yeah, thank you, Winters.
You were surprisingly gentle.
Thanks.
Bye, Chris. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Where's the stop?
Can I stop waving now?
Yeah, there we go.